There is no reason we should be the only major country not to have healthcare, not to have paid family and medical leave, et cetera, et cetera. Anybody here think that makes sense? No. All right, it doesn't. But you got to get CNN to talk about these issues. You got to get your members of Congress to talk about these issues.
We're literally talking about it right now.
Yeah, but I'm forcing you to talk about it, Anderson.
This is Joe. We invited you.
Oh God, that's just such classic Bernie. The body language, the voice. Also, look. Am I in a bubble? I don't have Bernie derangement syndrome, do I? He kind of looks the same as he did like 6 years ago, right? I mean, partially because I think, like Patrick Stewart, he's looked old for his entire life, but I don't think he's actually fallen apart nearly as much as like a Biden or a Trump. But anyway, they are talking about it in that CNN little panel. They're talking about the healthcare crisis, but Bernie is right, Anderson. Like, would you be talking about it if he wasn't there? First of all, would you be talking about that part of it if he hadn't made that exact point? Like, was that the next thing on your card? And also, generally, would you be talking about these issues if Bernie wasn't on? I kind of doubt it. And I think the reason he's on it all is because he's making a lot of people once again talk and think about this. He's doing these rallies with AOC around the country, and they're drawing tons of people. They're gonna have a big one this weekend in LA. And I think that Cooper, like, it's that they want the attention, they want the ratings. They don't necessarily want the conversation, but Bernie's hot right now. So that's why they're bringing him on. That said, let's give you a little bit more Bernie from that appearance.
We're the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people. 85 million of us are uninsured or underinsured. 60,000 die each year because we can't get to a doctor on time. That's the bad news. You know what the good news is? The insurance companies are making tens of billions of dollars every year denying you coverage. The drug companies charge us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. So how does it happen that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we're spending twice as much per capita as the people in other countries, and yet we have one of the worst outcomes, healthcare outcomes of any country on earth? And it gets back to money in politics and the domination of big money, in this case, insurance companies, drug companies, over the Republican and Democratic.
I want to try to get some more of our audience questions. Joel,
no, I know you do, but I want to talk about.
I know.
No, I want to, sometimes these issues about healthcare, about income and wealth inequality are not talked about in the corporate media, and it's time that we did talk about them. That's why the question a moment ago, why are people losing faith in the American system? We don't talk about it on CNN. We don't talk about it in Congress. It's because they understand that a handful of billionaires exert enormous influence. And that has got to change.
Okay, so thankfully he didn't go too hard there, but Anderson Cooper did kind of jump in once Bernie turned from just diagnosing the actual issue to why we have that issue, which is that these industries own most of the politicians in both parties, literally every single Republican and all but a couple Democrats. And they have that control not only over the politicians, they have that control over the corporate media as well. They buy all of those ads so that you don't get that sort of criticism. And so you're only gonna hear about the confluence of these two things when a person like Bernie Sanders is on. Anderson Cooper isn't gonna just do, an extended, passionate monologue about how big pharma has bought American democracy. That's not gonna happen. But instead, he does jump in to try to derail it. And look, he's got a good cover story. We got to get more questions. It is a town hall, but he's talking about something important there. And I kind of doubt that's the question he was gonna go to. So I'm glad that Bernie pushed on that. Anyway, with that said, I want to give you just a little bit more Bernie Sanders and here kind of having a little bit of fun with the situation.
Raise your hand if you think the American healthcare system is working well. And how many people are raising their hands?
None.
Raise your hand if you think the American healthcare system is broken. Raise your hand.
Majority, everyone.
Not a majority,
Everyone,
everybody in the room.
Yeah. Not a majority, that's everybody. And maybe there was one that wasn't down, but that was pretty fun. Hey, Anderson admitted that nobody raised their hand at first, and then he's like, the majority. No, it's everybody. And I would like to see Bernie Sanders do that more. There's only so much value out of making Anderson Cooper uncomfortable, but I'll take it at this point. He could have done that same thing. Like, how many people think that our politicians have been bought, that both the Democrat and the Republican parties have been bought? I think a lot of people would have raised their hands. He could have possibly asked, how many people think that big pharma's big ad spending on networks like CNN affects their coverage of critical issues? I think a few hands would have gone up, maybe even, in Anderson's words, the majority. Unfortunately, that probably would have stopped any town halls like this from happening in the near future again. But you got to use what you can. You got to use the time that you have. I would love to see Bernie go even harder there. Now that said, if you'd like to see Bernie Sanders, he is doing this tour. They're going around. I don't know how long they're going to be going for, but they're trying to do it in various parts of the country. Like I said, LA is going to be this weekend. AOC is joining him. They're trying to get as many people fired up as possible to fight the oligarchy. And Bernie's doing it as many ways as he can, including going in spots like corporate media, like CNN. And I'm glad that he's doing it. I'm glad that somebody is fighting back against this tsunami of nonsense that we see every day.